Vikram Sampath, you mentioned, and there cannot be a book on Savarkar unless we talk about the assassination of Gandhi, and we've referred to it, a bit in the interview earlier. But I want to ask you, he was eventually acquitted in the Red Fort trial in 1948. Yet, the fact that is contested till today is, would Savarkar not have known that Nathuram Godse and Narayan Apte, belonging to the Hindu Mahasabha, and knowing Savarkar very well, did not keep him in the loop about their plans? I also want to ask you, was there political rivalry at play, because Morarji Desai was then the Home Minister of Bombay. Digambar Badge was an approver and named Savarkar as having given his blessings, and he later turned an approver. And the bodyguard of Savarkar and his assistant, Mr. Damle, who is reported to have claimed during the statement to the police that he heard Savarkar say to Godse and Apte, "Tumhi yashasvi yun ya." So clearly, either all this actually happened, or there was a political conspiracy to fix Savarkar. What does your book say about that, if you could share with our viewers?
Yeah, I think that brings the elephant in the room, which is, I think, despite being honorably acquitted by the court, not as is made out for lack of evidence, but because there was no connection between him and the murder. Though of course Godse, Apte were his associates in the Hindu Mahasabha and also the Hindu Rashtra Dal, the Boy Scouts that was formed within the Hindu Mahasabha to counter the RSS with whom they had a fallout with under Golwalkar. Despite that, there was, all the correspondences between them was perused by the prosecution, but nothing came out, and that's how Justice Atmacharan acquitted Savarkar, the only one to be acquitted among the 9 people who were caught in the case. But I think the biggest clue to what actually happened in this case was came from none other than the law minister of the country then, Dr. Ambedkar. And I mentioned that in the book that based on sources again, that he actually called up Bhopatkar, who was the lawyer of Savarkar, saying, "I need to meet you." And then at a particular place in Delhi, and then he was driving the car himself, and then he asked Bhopatkar to get inside the car, and he says, "There's not a shred of evidence against your client, and it's all being done by the highest political leadership to fix your client, and he will get away because there's no evidence against him." The cabinet is also vastly divided on this issue, and Bhopatkar's quote, which I mentioned there, and leave it at that, saying, "Jawaharlal Nehru, why would he do that?" That was one of the conjectures which was very rife in political circles and discussions then, that systematically anybody who was a political opposition to the ruling dispensation then had to be done away with. We see that. Shama Prasad Mukherjee's mysterious death in Kashmir, or Sardar Patel, of course, was constantly being insinuated against, that he being the home minister was not had not taken enough steps to protect Mahatma Gandhi's life, whereas by 12th of January, Sardar Patel had virtually given up his 1948, about 18 days before Gandhi's murder. He had virtually given up his position as the home minister because of the differences he had with Nehru. Minutes before Gandhi's murder too, the two of them met, and Gandhi has promised to patch them both up over the next couple of days. So he was not even in charge of the home ministry, but still people who were viewed as threats and opponents within and outside the party and the government needed to be fixed, I guess, and he became a fall guy, because this whole issue, Yashasvi Hoon Ya, that Digambar Badge said, the prosecution's case was built only on this, and whereas there were 10 others who were countering it and saying that that was not true. In fact, Godse in his dying declaration himself states that from 1946-47, Savarkar had become very pacifist. He had almost started becoming very conciliatory towards the government, because he said, it's a government of the Indians, we don't need to oppose it. It's a new fledgling government, so let's give it all support. And we had lost all our faith in the old brass of the Hindu Mahasabha. We decided to break away from them and chart our own course to protect Hindu lives and sovereignty. They had seen what had happened at Naukhali, at the refugee camps. They were so incensed, and the whole decision to murder Gandhi too happened, only as late as 12th or 13th of January 1948. Because before then they had these fantastic ideas. Let's go and bomb the Pakistan assembly. Let's attack the Nizam's treasury while it's going from Maharashtra to Hyderabad state. All of these fancy, amateur plans. But when Gandhi went on this fast, saying 500 crores had to be given to Pakistan at a time when Kashmir was being invaded by the Pakistani tribesmen and army people, in the guise of tribesmen, that was when these people decided that he had to be bumped off. And so in those 18 days, in a very, very amateur manner, this whole exercise was done. A revolver was procured from Gwalior and all of that. So it's very unlikely that in that limited time, this man could have given any advice. And Navika, finally, the conclusive evidence to this came up as late as 28th of March, I guess, in 2018. And I don't know, maybe the media missed out on that, where a PIL was filed in the Supreme Court by this man called Pankaj Phadnis, challenging the Kapoor Commission, which had implicated Savarkar without much corroborative evidence. So the Honorable Supreme Court appointed an amicus curiae to go through the entire documents of the trial papers, the Kapoor Commission, and so on. And it was headed by Justice Bobde, the former CJI, and Justice Nageshwar Rao. And they came out with this statement in 2018 that there is the trial court's verdict of Savarkar's acquittal continues to remain, and there is nothing, the petitioner's contention that the Kapoor Commission implicates Savarkar is totally unfounded, and he has been honorably exonerated. So once the highest court of the country, and after so many trials and so many relooks, when some person has been honorably let off, I think to keep putting on the albatross again and again on him might be a tad unfair to him, especially when he is not around to defend himself. But Sardar Patel had rightly said in a letter to Shama Prasad Mukherjee that legally your leader may not be responsible, but the moral long shadow will remain on him. And that's precisely what's happened. The dark shadow of Gandhi assassination continues to haunt him even now, when there's talk of Bharat Ratna and other things.
When you point the finger at politics of the time, when you refer to Nehru, well, you're trying to once again resurrect a dark shadow. I don't know how present day India is going to view that. We do have those who are the torchbearers, as I said, of freedom of expression and speech, who might have problems with that statement. But before